morning. My name is Matina Charkoftaki. I'm a journalist at capital.gr, and today's session is about unlocking the investment potential in the Mediterranean area, and I have next to me very distinguished guests and speakers that they will help us to unlock this potential. And of course, the opportunities, we will say the opportunities about cooperating, about all the sovereign states funds in this area could cooperate more, unite, and this could help the social and the financial growth. So I would like to welcome Mr. Gregory Dimitriadis. He's the CEO of the National Growth Fund. Welcome, Mr. Dimitriadis.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for the invitation.
Mr. Ayman Soliman is the CEO of the Sovereign Fund of Egypt.
Thank you.
Mrs. Isabelle Bébéar, she is the head of International and European Affairs of the BPI France. Mr. Lawrence Yanovitch, he is the coordinator of the One Planet Sovereign Wealth Funds Network in France. And Mr. José Luis Curbelo, he is the CEO of COFIDES Spain. So I would start with the question, and I will start with Mr. Dimitriadis. The last decade, there's been a big discussion on how we could capitalize on the state assets in the best possible way for the people and the economy. And lately, the National Growth Fund is taking over the role of investor. How this initiative could be helped through cooperation and cooperating with other state funds in this area?
First of all, I'm very happy that we have other sovereign wealth funds here in Greece. So I want to thank each one of you that joined us today here at Delphi. And at the same time, we are also we have been already working together on this front, and it is helping us also as a growth fund to grow and mature, because we are relatively young. Well, actually, all of us are quite young, so we're at the same stage, and this helps us coordinate a little bit better. And we have the big names of the Arab world, or Norges, or the Singaporean funds that are very advanced. But it's a growth fund department. It's not only in Greece, it's in other countries, and together we try to build our capacity.
And you have a better understanding because you're in the same level. So sometimes do you have the same targets all the time, or? Because there's different interests sometimes.
Although it's sovereign wealth fund, it's a little bit different from country to country. We all share the same principles and the same aim. And the idea is that we have public assets, and we have to respond to the public value that we represent, and grow it. It's not just about privatizations or this. It's the assets we have, how best we can make it to have not just economic results, but also a social impact and environmental impact, which is actually what One Planet Sovereign Wealth Funds stands for. And at the same time, of course, to establish a better governance that will help all the citizens, not just for now, but for the future generations. And as you said, in the Mediterranean, it is a network, a MENA Network, as we call it, and we join forces in order to see how we can cooperate and maybe co-invest all together or bilaterally in specific projects, which we will discuss. And we recently, as Growth Fund, we became members, and we are very big supporters, because at the end, Mediterranean is all about land and sea, and how this works together.
And we need these kind of cooperations, in regional cooperations, and of course focused on Mediterranean. And you mentioned MENA Network. It's quite young, I think, as an initiative.
It is it's a new initiative, and but this we also have other groups which were all the sovereign wealth funds. But what we see is that since we are in the same phase of development as funds ourselves, and we have more common issues, which is from energy, blue economy, different fields. This is something that we can coordinate and have an impact in our region, because it is our region, so it affects also each one of our countries.
Okay, I would like to ask Mr. Soliman about the opportunities, because the subject is unlocking the investment potential. What are these opportunities?
Well, I can tell you very briefly, when we come together as a basin, the Mediterranean basin is rediscovering the opportunities. The challenges that the entire global economy faced with the COVID lockdown created the new themes, and of course the competition between and the trade war between the US and China, and the geopolitical turbulences that are happening in Eastern Europe, I think created a need for nearshoring. And nearshoring is not only for food supplies or industrial feeding industries, but also for energy and sustainable energy sources. Where we come from, and where we're seeing and advocating that collective thinking of our interdependency, we have so much to offer in terms of renewables, in terms of sustainable resources, in terms of investment opportunities. But as an emerging market in North Africa, we lack capital abundance, and we lack that. We came to existence as a sovereign fund of Egypt. We're quite young. We're actually younger than the growth fund. So we came to existence back in 2019. As a fund, our mandate was to actually crowd in private investments and private sector into the Egyptian economy, and of course to crowd in foreign direct investment. And this is part of why an emerging market is always in dire need for capital flows. But we also want to create sustainable long-term investments that are integrated around our peers and our partners. And the diplomacy of sovereign funds investing together, good ESG, good governance, good consciousness, and also non-politicized co-investment opportunities that sustain for future generations. And we create those ties. Nearshoring energy. So Egypt and Greece are in discussions around a cable connection for renewables to be produced in North Africa and Egypt, and then delivered green electrons into Greece. And Greece will act as a hub, as a feeding country into the rest of the European economies. So this is one opportunity. There are tons of other opportunities within agriculture, within insurance, within financial sectors that are feeding all those ecosystems, and where champions that and SOEs that our friends in Greece are championing, or our friends in Spain, or our friends in France are championing their companies, we would invite them with some opportunities for co-investment between their champions and our champions as well. So this is a very fertile opportunity for that theme.
Would you consider investing in Greece as a sovereign fund?
Of course. Our mandate is you grow your champion. So I have a company that does something very good in Egypt, and then they grow regionally. If they expand into Europe, it would definitely be our mandate to help them and provide them with the growth and the access with the like-minded partners that would actually create the right partner for them to enter a different market. So this is the complementarity of our portfolios as well.
And except from energy, what other sectors do you consider to be hot?
Manufacturing, of course, nearshoring of manufacturing. Logistics is a big thing. We sit at the connection of Asia, Africa, and Europe, and the Suez Canal is a theme that we want to really explore better and exploit better as a trade route. We are a gateway to Africa. Our friends and neighbors are gateways into the rest of Europe, and we're also a gateway to creating a hub that can become a feeder towards larger markets, be it the US side or the European side, the East European side as well. So we could become a solid, sustainable economic power as well.
Okay, I will keep the things that you said about being champions, and I will go to Mrs. Bébéar. And I would like Mrs. Bébéar to tell us some things regarding what the work you're doing in BPI France. And also, what are the opportunities that you see in the Mediterranean through the cooperation, of course?
So BPI France is a French public investment bank. On one side, we are a development bank, and we provide loans, guarantees, financing for innovation. And on the other side, we are the French Sovereign Wealth Fund, and we invest funds directly in companies, from startups to SMEs, mid-cap, and listed companies. We're a shareholder of Orange, for example, or Stellantis and ST Microelectronics. And also, we invest in VC and private equity funds. And the objective is to develop a private ecosystem in private equity in France, and also to be able to invest directly in companies when there's no so many private money, or there are some sectors where there is not enough private money, and we always co-invest with private actors. We would never invest alone. So in 2022, we have mobilized 62 billion euros.
62 billion, you said?
67, sorry,
67,
billion euros.
A lot of money.
Including 32 billion for export. And the total asset, our total asset under management is 50 billion euro.
Okay.
So, as you understand, we are focused on France, but we want to support French companies to internationalize and to go abroad, and for that we have put together our tools, financial tools, of course, but also we support them with accompaniment to externalize. And also we work with other entities, with partners, with whom we can exchange good practices, or we can also invest together. For example, we are a member of SWF with Lawrence. And it's really a place where we can share very good practices and pick between peers. But I will let Lawrence explain what exactly we do. We are members of several other sovereign wealth funds network, and we are one of the founders with Soliman of EMINA. And the object of EMINA, so.
You're very active.
Yes, and exactly, putting together sovereign wealth fund from Mediterranean, but also from MENA region and the Gulf. We are organizing, the last one was the last meeting was in Madrid, and the next one is in Paris next week.
In Paris, you have the first meeting, the first gathering of MENA Network.
It's not the first, because the last one was in Madrid.
Yes. Okay.
But the next one is the third, I think, because
this is the third. The first
because
one
of
was
the
in
third
Malta.
one.
The first one was in Malta, because it's one of the founders.
Okay, and you will set the goals about this network and the framework of activities that you want to succeed.
Yes. In fact, during this meeting, the objective of EMINA is to co-invest together and to present ourselves some opportunities of deal to co-invest. It can be investment in companies. It can be also investment in funds with COFIDES. We probably will co-invest in the same private equity fund in the Mediterranean. It's called the Mediterranean. We are a partner already, but we are probably investing in this fund too with COFIDES, and so that's the objective. And next week, so no, it's not next week; it's the week after. We organize two panels on two very important subjects. The first one is financing innovative and green companies, and José Luis will moderate this panel. And the second one is on smart cities and infrastructure, and Soliman will moderate this panel. So you see, we work a lot together.
Okay, we are anticipating about that. You said about all the speakers talked about sustainability, and we have like Mr. Yanovitch. And I would like to ask him, considering the inflation, the energy crisis, and the difficult macroeconomic conditions, do you see investors and funds reevaluating their short-term goals, and how this could affect the short-term goals that they have been set?
Thank you, Matina. Kalimerasas. It's wonderful to be here again. This is my second opportunity to come to the Delphi Forum, and I'm always so inspired. There's just a spectacular energy and stimulation here. So to answer your question, perhaps let me just present what the One Planet SWF Network is, and why, indeed, this community is very engaged on the climate journey. So we're a network of 18 sovereign wealth funds, 4 of whom are with us today. We have 18 asset managers and 10 private equity funds from around the world, $37 trillion of assets under management. They come together and they've made a commitment to shift their portfolios towards the Paris Agreement. That's really considering climate as a real risk, a financial risk to their portfolios, but also there's the opportunity to be ahead of the transition. So yes, they're deeply engaged. As I mentioned, with President Emmanuel Macron, we have an annual summit. We have our next one coming up in June. And just to give you a testimony to how focused they are on the issue, they've just published a set of standards and guidelines for all private equity funds, asking them to report on estimated scope 1, 2, and 3 for their emissions. So this is very important. It shows their commitment, and they're in it to win it.
Okay, and last but not least, Mr. Curbelo, what is COFIDES does? What does COFIDES do in Spain?
Thank you very much. It is a great pleasure being here. I don't know, coming to the place where all our culture began is something impressive, as you were saying. The energy that one feels here is quite breathtaking. Thank you, Gregory, for inviting me, and Growthfund for inviting me to this, and COFIDES to participate in this debate. Well, COFIDES is a very peculiar type of institution in the sense that we are a management company of different funds that the Spanish government allocate us for specific purposes. So we have one of our pillars is supporting Spanish companies investing abroad, whatever developing or developed countries. We have another pillar of activity that is collaborating with the Spanish government in financing Spanish cooperation and aid in third world countries, according to the policies that the Spanish government has for supporting the cooperation policy of Spain. During the pandemic, we were allocated an important amount of money to strengthen the equity base of companies that were severely affected by COVID. So we invested in 90 whatever companies that were heavily affected and had survived because of the money that we took that we invested in that companies.
How much asset do you run?
We manage right now like 3.5 million euros of portfolio. Billion
okay.
Of portfolio. And right now we are in the process of the final negotiation of 2 additional important funds. One of them is a fund that is going to be FOCO, co-investment fund, to invest with foreign investors in Spain, so to attract foreign investment into Spain. And we are going to be allocated another fund that is going to be called FEES, social impact fund, that is to invest in small and medium enterprises in Spain with social impact, with a strict social impact.
Would you consider investing in Greece, and in which sectors?
Yeah, one of our line of activities that I told you at the beginning.
You said yes.
Yes.
It's a promise.
No.
You hear that?
As long as there is a Spanish company behind, we are willing to invest. We will invest. I know the people, my colleague that is around here of the trade, of the Spanish embassy has told me that there are several investments that the Spanish companies are studying already. So in sectors like SMEs, infrastructure, clean energy, tourism. So there are digital activities and so on. There are lines of activity in which Spanish companies are prospecting Greece, and of course, if they ask us to participate in the investment, we will participate with them in.
Why do you think it's now the right time to invest, like in Greece, or to scale up the cooperation between the sovereign funds?
I will say that not only in Greece, I think in all the Mediterranean countries
yes.
and all, I think that we are in a process of transformation. And in all the process of transformation, there are a lot of uncertainties. And here is where I think governments have a role to play, because there is technological uncertainties, regulatory uncertainties, that somehow private investors feel that for them to take the decisions, they have to be taken by the hand by other institutions that will help them to de-risk their positions, their investments. So I think that all of us have an important function of collaborating for the de-risking of certain investments, specifically in those sectors that are central to the economic transformation that we are going right now. As you say, the nearshoring, well, that is involving a lot of risks. And so I think that we have a role to play in that process of reconfiguration of the world geography.
I will keep the word transformation. It's very important what you said. And I will go back again to our more Greek things, because now we're in pre-election period, and the attention is focused on the upcoming elections. And I would like to ask Mr. Dimitriadis, what is the impact, the effect of the investors that they see because of this period? Are they reluctant to invest?
The investors, they see a lot of opportunities in Greece, and there is still very good potential. So I don't think that the election period is worrying them that much. As you mentioned earlier, of course, there is now a period of higher inflation, which is also a parameter that investors consider. But especially on our side, we are sovereign wealth funds. So we look for the longer term. So it's not just how this will affect our investment in 1-2 years. And by looking in the long term, and since we know from Fed and also ECB that this will normalize over the next few months, we are a type of investors that will not just focus on what will happen now, but for over many, many years. And this is also the type of investors that we want to attract in our countries, and that's why we cooperate together, because we have a long-term perspective. In that sense, also, we transform all our agencies at the same time to be able to serve that. As a growth fund, we have a number of state-owned enterprises, so that's our primary focus, but at the same time, according to our founding law, we have to invest our proceeds and to invest them back in the Greek economy, and that's how we build all these networks here in order to see like-minded investors and do exactly as Jose described. You give a little bit of money, but you have a foreign investor who comes, another sovereign wealth fund, and they see in us a partner they recognize with the right corporate governance, which is very important to them. They see that they are state, so this means stability, but at the same time they have an independent decision making, which makes it's not affected by the political cycles. So whatever happens, we will remain to continue. And of course, we always want governments to support us. It's very important and be pro-business. At the same time, we are able to move beyond the difficulties of specific periods.
I would like the point of view of outside of Greece, like Mr. Soliman, your opinion about this. Does pre-election period affect investments?
I agree with Gregory. I think the views of the diplomacy of co-investments between sovereign funds and the future generations transcend beyond any short-term changes or political changes, because the sovereign funds are non-politicized investment arms. They are serving the people and they're serving the future generations. So that mandate should not be affected if it makes sense to create sustainable energy resources and clean energy for the entire planet. If it makes sense for the entire planet, it would definitely make sense for Greece, it would definitely make sense for Egypt. So it is not something that is debatable politically. Maybe fiscal policy, monetary policy, but I think the core essence of the rationale of an investment thesis does not change. So I think it is something, it's only a minor wrinkle in a very long-term view of our funds.
Is there any challenges that you have to take into consideration? I don't know who wants to answer. Like in this network of cooperation, what would be like the main challenges to overcome?
I think that we are all domestic sovereign wealth fund, and so we have a lot of things to share, and one of the objectives is also to attract other kind of sovereign wealth fund, like Mubadala or like CIC in China, etc.
Is it easy to do that? Because
yes,
they have like a different mentality maybe than European.
So we try to attract them to invest in our own countries. It's not so easy, but they want they're looking for opportunities to diversify their investments. We have, I think, one very exemplary partnership with Mubadala. We began to work with them by just co-investment in France, and then by knowing each other, they have put 1 billion euros in a fund directly managed by BPI France called Lake One to invest in big listed French companies. So we think that it's a long way, but beginning to cooperate with them, and then they put more money in the country. We also have a good partnership with the QIA, the Qatari. We have a fund in common, and we invest in SMEs and mid caps in France together. So and that's we try to develop, because there are several kinds of sovereign wealth funds.
So I think that you all optimistic about the next day. And that would be, that's the...
By choice.
By choice.
We have to be, but because we see from our interaction that there is potential, and these sovereign wealth funds, they do have a lot of money, and they have to invest them. So it is our cooperation that will help channel this money also towards here. And of course, as you said, the climate might be a little bit more difficult at this time, but we go and see beyond that. And even if we have elections, we have also Minister Adonis Georgiadis here, who has been a big supporter of this. And also internally, we cooperate, because everyone is a little bit different. But we also try to mobilize and show also to the political system what exactly we are, because we're a little bit different animals than what it has been used to. But I think that we still can do it, and yes, be optimistic, yes.
I will emphasize something that has been said, that is the idea of trust.
The trust.
I think that both, if you want to mobilize resources from third parties, for instance, Isabelle has talked about Mubadala or Kia or whoever. If we are going to work, the French and us together, or the Greek and us together, all of us want to know that you are going to be transparent, that you are going to disclose information, that you are independent when you take the decision, that the government is, whatever the government is arm's length, so that at the end that you know that you have a reliable partner in which you can, with whom you can negotiate a lot of things and thinking about the future. And that is essential to mobilize investments.
Okay, with this last note, because we are out of time,
No,
but yes, Mr. Yanovitch.
So I just want to say that the funds you mentioned from the Arab Gulf are part of the SWF network. And what we found is this great solidarity. In fact, some of you came together through the SWF network, and it's indeed this trust that we're building in our community today.
Okay, with this message of trust and the promises from Mr. Curbelo, Mr. Soliman, and Mrs. Bébéar that they're going to invest in Greece, I would like to thank you very much